I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome to the June 16th Subdivision Committee meeting. I'm Joe Holcomb. I'm the only commissioner here now. We'll go ahead and go through the meeting, but we'll have to forward on to the commission all of the items on the agenda since we cannot vote on anything with me being the only one here. So there's no consent agenda, no old business. I guess we can just go ahead and go to new business.
Yes. I don't know if you want to introduce the item.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of how to usually do it. So you just read it off and then anyone that wants to comment.
So typically you'll just introduce the item, you'll ask staff for a report, and then hear from any members of the public who wish to speak to it. Or excuse me, ask staff for a report, ask the applicant, and then any members of the public who wish to speak.
Okay, got it. All right, thank you for that. All right, so first up we have concurrent plat 2022-06, Creekside Meadows, Rush Coleman, submitted by Craft and Toll, property located at Creekside Meadows. The property is zoned RSF 8, residential single family, 8 units per acre, and contains approximately 8 units per acre. The request is for the concurrent plat of 9 residential lots, and the planner was Jesse Messers.
Thank you, Mr. Holcomb. So the subject item before you today is a concurrent plat. The property is in South Fayetteville. Sorry, it's up and running. It's at the southeast corner of East 15th Street and South Morningside Drive. The lots in question are part of the Creekside Meadows subdivision, which was final platted in 2021. Those 4 areas in question that you see recently received a letter of map reduction from FEMA approving a change in the existing floodplain boundary. So along with that approval, the applicant is coming forward and wishing to further subdivide these 4 lots into a total of 9. As far as water and sewer goes, no additional water or sewer infrastructure is required with this proposal. Each lot is going to have the required access to water and sewer. These lots were actually originally planned for with the overall subdivision. So here's a quick zoom in look at these lots in question. So moving from the west to the east, they're going from 1 to 3, and then from 1 to 2, and then from 1 to 2, and 1 to 2. So the only sort of administrative issue with this item is there is a question of right-of-way dedication. So typically when a lot through a concurrent plat is going to be further subdivided, the requirement is that they're required to dedicate right-of-way in the amount needed to meet the master street plan requirements, which is typically 26 feet from the street center line. This project came through under a previous master street plan standard. These lots were not created yet when the dimensions basically changed. So in this particular instance, a lesser dedication of right-of-way determination has to be made by City Council to determine that they won't need to dedicate any additional right-of-way with this request. So that item will be coming before Planning Commission as a separate item, and then will ultimately be going on to City Council for that final determination. Staff finds that there are practical difficulties that would not necessitate additional right-of-way dedication at this time. Again, thinking about the fact that the regulations changed, and the lots were just final platted, and there would be some practical difficulties in realigning of sidewalks that wouldn't make a lot of sense with this in this particular case. So ultimately, staff will be recommending in favor of that, but City Council will be having to make the final determination. As far as access to the lots in question, that's provided through the creation of those public streets with the overall subdivision. We have not received any public comment on this. As far as tree preservation and parkland, those items have both been handled with the overall final plat. They've dedicated ample parkland to cover this proposal, and they've already met their tree preservation requirements. So with that, we are recommending that the item be forwarded to Planning Commission with the recommendation of approval, and then that secondary right-of-way request will be coming through at a subsequent meeting. There's just one minor plat comment that needs to be addressed prior to the Planning Commission meeting, and then any other divisions who had comments should be addressed as well. I can take any questions you might have.
All right, does the applicant have or want to speak?
Sure, Taylor Lindley with Craft and Toll. To Ms. Masters' point, this is just basically cleaning up the original preliminary plat design that got approved at Planning Commission a couple years ago, and after construction and all that, the lots were too, all the lots that are circled were impacted by a floodplain at one point in time, so we could not plat them as buildable lots. We have since done the steps to remove them from the floodplain, and so now they can be further split and platted. But everything was accounted for in that original design and preliminary plat approval. So yeah, I can answer any other questions you might have.
Okay. All right, and then any members of the public wish to speak?
There's nobody online. Please raise your hand.
Okay, well, I guess the only thing I want to speak to this, it seems pretty straightforward. Is this something that could go to consent?
It could, yep.
But we can't vote to do that? Or we need to vote to do that?
Well, you could just move to forward it today, and then it could always be placed on consent agenda at the agenda session.
At the
Agenda session.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, that's all I have. Any other comments? Okay, so next up we have large scale development 2021. Thank you. Zeros 34, 685 West Van Ash Drive, Points, Fayetteville Apartments 211, submitted by Jorgensen and Associates for property located at 685 West Van Ash Drive. The property is zoned C3, Central Commercial, and it contains approximately 38.72 acres. The request is for a 412 unit multifamily complex with associated parking, and planners Jesse Masters.
Thank you very much. So yes, this item is located in North Fayetteville. It's at the southwest corner of Van Ash Drive and North Gregg Avenue. The property in question is undeveloped. It's zoned C3 Central Commercial, and it contains approximately 38.72 acres. The property is just west of the existing Arkansas-Missouri Railroad, and plans for a new railroad crossing are currently underway at the intersection of Gregg and North Shiloh down here in the southern portion of that boundary. The proposal in front of you today, the applicant is proposing to construct a 422-unit multifamily development with associated parking. It's part of an overall wider plan to develop more of the site, but this is basically the first step in that process. The applicant has submitted a variance to the typical master street plan standards for proposed street widths and right-of-way dedication, which we'll get into right now. So just to zoom in a little bit on what they're proposing, we've got a large structure with a parking garage in the middle and a few courtyards and a pier. So as far as the right-of-way to be dedicated, the lot in question, the overall lot, just to zoom out, currently has frontage along Van Ash and North Gregg. And the proposed structure is going to be set more interior to the site, away from those two street frontages. So with that, the applicant is proposing to dedicate public streets to provide access to that structure. They are currently proposing to dedicate 92 feet of right-of-way to connect to North Gregg to the east, and 92 feet of right-of-way to connect to West Van Ash to the north. So this would be a continuation essentially of North Shiloh Drive, and this would be a continuation of North Roosevelt Avenue. They are requesting a variance, so typically these streets would be classified as neighborhood link streets, which would have a maximum right-of-way dedication of 67 feet. The applicant is requesting to dedicate the right-of-way to the master street plan standards of a regional link. Staff is actually not recommending in favor of this request at this time. Right now, we're finding that the applicant has not yet provided enough evidence to support that such a wide street section is merited at those proposed locations. To give the commission some context, that street section is the same that's currently used on Rupel Road. And so the intention behind the regional link street is to serve a more regional capacity and not necessarily just serve one development. So It may be something that staff's recommendation could shift on that if we have additional information with a provided traffic study, but that's our current stance on the item at hand. As far as those street improvements also go, we're not recommending any street improvements be made to Van Ash or Gregg Avenue. Again, since the project itself is more interior to the site, it is worth bringing to this body's attention that there is a railroad crossing that is being proposed and redeveloped by the city at this location. City Council has budgeted that item, and it is in the design phase at this time. But the budget under consideration with that connection right now is only for the actual physical crossing over the tracks and for any associated safety measures. So with the proposed development, there may need to be some additional improvements for that crossing, such as potential signal modification to the existing traffic signal that's there, or there may need to be they need to actually make the connection as well to that crossing. So any additional improvements that would be needed for that crossing to accommodate the added development would need to be borne by the developer and not the city. So speaking to these streets, again, this is North Shiloh Drive and North Roosevelt Avenue. They are again requesting to construct those extensions to the regional link street standards. They're proposing to accommodate a traffic volume of 17,000 vehicle trips per day. This would include an 8-foot sidewalk, 10-foot green space, 4 drive lanes, and a median. Staff again is recommending that North Shiloh Drive connection be constructed to the neighborhood link street section with it would still have 8-foot sidewalks and a 10-foot green space, but essentially would not have 4 lanes and a median, but would be a narrower street itself. And then the same recommendation goes for North Roosevelt Avenue as well. As far as water and sewer goes, the applicant is proposing to extend an 8-inch main in order to provide fire protection and domestic water. The applicant is also proposing to extend a 12-inch sewer main from the existing 48-inch main that runs near the Fulbright Expressway. As far as parkland dedication goes, the project went to PRAB back in June of 2021, and there was a recommended fee in lieu of dedication for those 422 proposed units for a total of $401,744, which would be due ultimately prior to the building permit approval. Tree preservation, the minimum canopy requirement for the C3 zoning district is 15%. There's actually no existing canopy on this site, so no mitigation is going to be required with this. And then for connectivity and design standards, staff finds that the project is complying with 16623, those urban residential design standards. The applicant is providing pedestrian connectivity throughout the site, including pedestrian connections to future right-of-way, which you can see down here. And the elevations are meeting those relevant design standards. Staff has not received any public comment on the project. We have received a couple inquiries, but no outright opposition or support of the request. And so with that, we are recommending that the item be forwarded to Planning Commission with a recommendation of approval with conditions, again, as outlined by staff. And I can answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Would applicant like to speak? Is there anyone online? Anyone joined?
We do. We have a Blake Jorgensen.
All right.
Good morning. How are y'all doing this morning?
Good morning.
Good. Yeah, I was been present, up there today. I just a little bit under the weather, so I decided to stay home. But I appreciate staff for doing this project. We're very excited. I know we've been kind of seesawing on this thing. We're holding it off high center. There's been a lot of coordination for a much more regional approach that, we're kind of looking way up in the air on this thing. So we had a lot of off-stop water and sewer to get resolved, and so we've got that resolved now, and we do understand that the railroad crossing needs to be coordinated. We do have the design plans that the city of Fayetteville had, and they gave us their CAD file, so we inserted that exact block into our drawing. So that is the city's currently their current design. So we're dealing into that for right now, but As far as the street section, I mean, it's rare that we want to build more street at the expense of, to our developer, but when we do our traffic study, for the full build out, we're looking at around 17,900 trips per day. And I know the neighborhood link is designed for about 4,000 and less. And then the regional link is designed for around 17,000. So we wanted to build something that will be, of service for the future build outs. I mean, it's not just our hub that we're analyzing. We're really looking at not just, these 1,200 units plus everything to the west of it. So we really just want to get to a situation where there is going to be a lot of traffic, and we prefer to have a boulevard to prevent some of those, left-hand turns into oncoming traffic. So there's some safety issues and also just future serviceability on the what they call a level of service for how traffic flows. And so if I didn't provide enough information, that's my fault, and I can get you more before the planning commission. And I apologize for that. I wasn't quite sure. I was out of town on this second submittal, so I don't have the files in front of me what was submitted, but I know we had talked about it, and that if something got missed on the submittal, that's on my end, so I'll get that cleaned up. But besides that, I appreciate everyone's review, and happy to discuss it more. I know it seems like there's not a lot of people up there today, so maybe there's not much discussion. I don't know.
All right, thank you. Are there any members of the public?
Mr. Chair, I meant to, sorry.
Did I skip that?
I meant to let you know that oftentimes other city staff besides planning will present.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if you want to call on engineering, fire, and urban forestry as well. It's your decision.
Okay, yeah. Is anyone from urban forestry on that wants to speak to this?
We just had one comment, and that was just about the street trees. There seems to be a connection street between goes from one cul-de-sac to the other, and that street is a little bit confusing. That street trees are required on private and public streets.
Okay, thank you.
Very important project, and we're looking forward as well.
Thank you. Anyone from fire wish to speak?
This name on fire. We don't have any comments on this project. Recommend moving forward.
And then water, sewer, or
Engineering.
engineering. Any from engineering like to speak to this item?
Yeah, good morning, it's Josh from engineering. I do have a few comments. Ms. Masters alluded to a few of them. So as far as water and sewer, the applicant is proposing to extend public mains into the site. So as far as, I do want to touch on the traffic study and street improvements that were mentioned. So right now, as Ms. Masters stated, City Council has budgeted for the physical crossing of the railroad. So making sure that vehicles can cross the tracks and the safety features, so the arms coming down, things like that. But as far as the roadway connection from Gregg into the site, that hasn't been budgeted, or any sort of signal modifications for the actual traffic signals. So additional signal heads, pedestrian lights, pedestrian heads, things like that. So that's something that hasn't been budgeted for. And then to answer some of Mr. Jorgensen's questions and comments about the traffic study. So right now, we've got the traffic study for this property, where the development's taking place. As you stated, there's about 17,000 trips at full build out. With that, those are distributed over 2 entrances right now. So the southern one, from what I can tell, is get about 55% of those, and the northern one's going to take a few other ones, and then future roads will have those a few trips. Our biggest hurdle right now, and recommending approval on that variance for the full regional link section in this area is the lack of information for future development. So right now, our design volume for neighborhood links is less than 6,000, so that's the design volume. But those streets still function at a higher volume. So Greg is a neighborhood link, and in some instances it has about 16,000 average daily trips. So they're able to function with that higher volume. So we just need some more information as far as full build out and specifically why a 4-lane section is needed in this area. So that's just some more clarification on the traffic study. We do also need some information for costs for Signal, Roosevelt, and Van Ash. The traffic study did recommend that as this property is built out and even more to the west, that a light might be needed there. So we want to get some information on that and see if it's something where an assessment will be due for this project and what sort of impact it might have on that. So that's kind of the bulk of our comments for traffic improvements, street improvements. For drainage, the applicant's proposing to meet all of our standards. There is a small section worth about 11,000 square feet that's not being proposed to be treated for water quality or detention. And so we're just asking for some more information on that and potential options to treat that. So we're recommending it move forward, but you have some items that need to be addressed prior to the Planning Commission submittal.
Thank you. Did I get everyone?
Yes,
Thank you. All right.
Okay. My name's Kathy, and I have a house on the corner of Van Ash. And Greg, and I've lived in Fayetteville since '73, but I'm a nurse. I went travel nursing for 13 years and have recently moved back. What concerns me, everywhere I've gone, any city that I've ever gone to, the city follows the hospital. It grows up around the hospital. The hospital is the hub of the city. We have doctors and nurses that have to be within 10 minutes of arrival time on call to Washington Regional to save lives. I don't know, I don't think y'all are thinking ahead. To me, there's a small area of housing that they could live in, that this might be better off single housing for the doctors and the nurses to be able to get there. Also, I don't think y'all should proceed with this until you talk to the doctors and the nurses and the people of Regional. Because what is that going to stop on ambulance time and on their arrival time getting there? Because this is everybody's life. They have to be there in 10 minutes. And it's really, really going to make that congested. And it's going to be a lack of, there's really nowhere else to put residential. I mean, across, yeah, but that's more mall area, you know? So there's got to be some way, because the hospital's going to build. There's got to be some way that people that need to get there in 10 minutes can get there in 10 minutes and not be just a high-rise student area. The other thing that I'm thinking of, just because it's the future, someone had once said that it might be good if that railway was used as commute between Bentonville and here, you know, and I think the city's kind of given up a prime area that might be used. And that's the main thing. I'm worried about the safety of the community and the traffic problems and the lack of, because it might even stop commute time for some people. And I think that y'all really, really, really need to talk to Regional before you do this.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
If I can, getting this to the commission, for engineering, if I could ask engineering, do you know, is there a certain type of consideration at a distance from a hospital on traffic? Is there a special aspect to the traffic study for proximity to a hospital?
It's not something that we've asked for in the past. I think I would defer to Mr. Jorgensen and the traffic engineer that they consulted with to potentially make some observations on what sort of impact traffic from this development might have on the adjacent streets. I know that, we look at capacity of intersections, and when we look at that, it's level of service, so it's based on wait time. If you're sitting at a red light for a certain number of signal phases, it kind of goes through that level of service. You got A all the way down to F. All of these signals around here, I think, are proposed to operate either D or above. Typically, that's what we look at. If there's a school around, we factor in school traffic, but those are fixed points. So, when school starts, when school lets out, as far as response times and other items for physicians and doctors getting to the hospital, I'll defer to the traffic engineer on that.
Thank you. I think my one question on this, if you can pull up the what was submitted for the layout of the project. So the two that center parking deck, the two buildings they have on this plan are on each side of the parking deck. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's essentially,
How many units are being built in this phase?
422.
So there are 421 or 412.
Yeah, there was a typo in the agenda, but it's 422.
22, and that's split between those two units and the.
It is, yeah. All of those units will be built within this structure.
Within that structure, okay. I was not totally clear on that. And then there's future plans which you talked to.
Yeah,
so.
We haven't reviewed I believe there is an overall master plan for the whole area, but we aren't reviewing for anything else.
But there wasn't anything submitted, or I think.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
There's also a pool that center item is a pool. And
oh yeah, I was wondering what that was as well. Okay, so cool. Yeah, I don't have anything else. Since no one else is here, this will forward by default. Let's move on to the next item.
Thank you.
Thank you. Large scale development, LSD 2022-019, 4550 North Crossover Road, Key Point Church, 099, submitted by Bates and Associates for property located at 4550 North Crossover Road. The property is zoned P1 institutional and RA residential agricultural and contains approximately 8.24 acres. The request is for a 16,560 square foot religious institution with associated parking. The planner is Gretchen. Here's.
Thank you, Mr. Markham. So the subject property for this item is located in North Fayetteville, roughly 200 feet north of the intersection of Crossover and Zion Road. The property is zoned for the most part P1 institutional. It contains approximately 8.24 acres and is currently developed with one single family dwelling, which was built in 1991. The eastern portion of the property contains the riparian corridor and floodplain of Hilton Creek, and it is zoned RA residential agricultural. So today the applicant is requesting large-scale development approval to develop the property with a 16,560 square foot church facility with associated parking. No variances have been requested with this application. Just to dive into staff's recommendations, as far as right-of-way dedication goes, the property has frontage along Crossover Road, which is a regional link street in the 2040 Master Street Plan. Regional links typically require 92 feet of right-of-way dedication with 46 feet from center line. An excess of RDOT right-of-way is currently present at this location, so we are not recommending any additional right-of-way dedication with this development. As far as other street improvements go, regional links typically require 8-foot sidewalk and 10 feet green space along the right-of-way. The active transportation plan indicates a future trail connection in this location, so the applicant is proposing a 12-foot trail at the back of the existing right-of-way. Staff recommends green space and a 12-foot trail along the property's frontage as indicated by the applicant on their attached site plan, as shown here. As far as access management and connectivity go, staff has determined that this development meets the city's requirements. Access is proposed via a private driveway extending from Crossover Road to the east, and it will be utilizing an existing curb cut along that RDOT right-of-way. And cross-access is provided with a driveway connecting to the parking lot of the funeral home to the south. Staff has asked for some additional clarity as to why that connection is being provided, and just making sure that we have the consent that we need from the adjacent property owners if needed, or if just verifying why that is being provided. As far as water and sewer access to the site, both are available, and the development will be connecting to a 6-inch water main along the south of the property, and it's also going to connect to a 8-inch sanitary sewer main on the west side of the property. Since this is a church facility and a non-residential development, it is not subject to our parkland dedication requirements, and it is also not subject to our commercial design standards. As far as tree preservation goes, there is a 25% minimum canopy requirement for this site. The existing canopy is 27%, and the amount to be preserved is.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, am I in the wrong meeting? Sorry.
So the applicant is proposing to preserve 20.8% of the tree canopy, so 65 2-inch caliber trees are required for mitigation. Staff did not receive any public comment on this item. There are just some elevations of the building for reference. So we are recommending that it be forwarded to the full planning commission, and I can stand for any questions that you may have on it.
Thank you. Would Urban Forestry like to speak to this item?
Yeah, just a couple minor comments that we had, we're recommending that we move forward to tree preservation easement, do some adjusting for construction around tree pines and other trees, for the tree preservation portion, especially for that I think we would like to eliminate them and really are
Thank you. Engineering, would you like to speak?
Yes, we had a few minor comments on this one, nothing major. One thing that I want to point out, site does have hydric soils, which could be an indicator of wetlands and a special flood hazard area. But the development is outside of those areas, so we're okay with that location. For drainage, they're proposing to meet all 4 minimum standards that are outlined in the drainage manual, using a detention pond and a proprietary separator device. A few plain comments, drafting comments that we can work out, but we're recommending that you have to move forward.
Thank you. Fire, do you have a comment?
No, Fire has no comment.
All right, thank you. All right, now could we, would the applicant like to speak? Is he online, or he or she online?
Yes, okay, Mr. Jake Chambers.
Good morning, this is Jake with Bates & Associates. Just want everybody down here for any questions if you have any.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public wish to speak? Anyone online?
There's nobody online.
Okay. Then I don't really have any comment on this project. I'd like to see more about it as it gets to the actual meeting, so it'll go ahead and go forward.
That's great, thank you.
All right, the next thing on the last item on the agenda is large-scale development 2022-020, 3349 West Weddington Drive, Glide Express Car Wash, 440, submitted by Anderson Engineering for property located at 3349 West Weddington Drive. Property is zoned RPZD Residential Plan Zoning District and contains 1.68 acres. The request is for 4450 square foot commercial car wash, and the planner is Gretchen Harrison.
So the property for this item is in West Fayetteville at the southeast corner of Weddington Drive and Salem Road. The property contains 1.69 acres. It's currently undeveloped and lies within the Forest Hills Plan Zoning District. A conditional use permit for a car wash on this site was denied by the Planning Commission earlier this year and then subsequently appealed to and approved by City Council. A separate variance was approved by the Planning Commission last month for this project to allow 2 25-foot wide and 2 30-foot wide drive aisles next to the vacuum bays in the center of the development. So just to get into the applicant's request, they are asking for large-scale development approval to develop the property with a 4,450 square foot commercial car wash with some associated parking and vacuum bays. The applicant has submitted one variance request with this item. They are requesting to vary from our commercial mixed-use office development design standards. As part of those standards, all structures are required to be designed to have front facades with adjacent to all public right-of-way with entrances, prominent entryways on each principal facade. Right now, the applicant is only providing a principal entryway on the north side of the building, so there is not an entrance facing Salem Road to the west. Staff is supportive of the applicant's request to not have a principal facade on the west side of the building, since it is, while it's not meeting the letter of our code, it's meeting the intent by promoting pedestrian and vehicular safety. As a car wash, it's the building itself is not intended to be accessed by pedestrians, and they are orienting the building towards the higher classification street and do still have an entrance and are providing bike racks and other kind of pedestrian-oriented elements with the development. So we are supportive of their request to not provide an entryway on the west side of the building. To dive back into street improvements and staff's recommendations, as far as right-of-way dedication goes, the property is a corner lot with frontage along Salem Road to the west and Weddington Road to the north. Salem Road to the west is a residential link street per the 2040 Master Street Plan, typically requiring 26 feet of right-of-way from centerline. Weddington Road is a regional link high activity street, and it typically requires 48 feet of right-of-way from centerline. An excess of right-of-way is already existing along the property Salem Road and Weddington Drive frontages, so we are not recommending any additional right-of-way dedication with this development. In terms of other street improvements, since Weddington Drive is a regional link high activity street, it typically requires a 10-foot sidewalk and 10 feet green space along its right-of-way. The active transportation plan also indicates a future trail at this location. However, since RDOT does have plans to widen this portion of Weddington Drive in the near future, we are not recommending any improvements along the property's Weddington Road frontage at this time, since they'd likely be torn out and replaced shortly after this development came through. So we are recommending that the existing sidewalk stay along that road. And then along Salem, it is a residential link, which typically requires 6-foot sidewalk and 6-foot green space along the back of its right-of-way. We are recommending that the property Salem Road frontage be improved with 6-foot sidewalk along the back of the existing right-of-way, and that street trees along that road be moved outside of the right-of-way. Our urban forester, Melissa Evans, expressed some concerns about the street trees on the opposite side of Salem and how they frequently needed to be removed for utility maintenance work and some other reasons. So she recommended that they be moved outside just to ensure their longevity. As far as access management and connectivity goes, staff has determined that this project is meeting our requirements. Ingress and egress to the site is proposed via an existing shared private driveway to the south through an adjacent property. No new curb cuts are proposed either along Salem or Weddington, and all of the access will be concentrated onto that shared drive. As far as design standards go, as mentioned earlier, the applicant has requested a variance for that front entryway on the west facade. Otherwise, staff did find that they are meeting the rest of the architectural design standards that are applicable for this project. They are accommodating cross-access with that shared drive, and dumpster and utility equipment are proposed to be screened. They are also meeting the architectural standards of the Forest Hills Planned Zoning District. It's one story and utilizing the neighborhood's color scheme with brick materials. In terms of water and sewer access, both are available to this site at the southwest corner, and they are proposing to tap into existing 8-inch mains at that location. Since this is a non-residential use, parkland dedication is not required for this project, and tree preservation and mitigation were all accounted for with the larger Forest Hills Planned Zoning District, so it is not required with this project, though some is being provided. We did not receive any public comment on this item, and we are again recommending that it be forwarded to the full Planning Commission, and I can stand for any questions that you may have on it.
Thank you. Urban Forestry, would you want to speak on this item?
Just one comment that we have is
John, I'm sorry, we can't hear you. I think it might
oh,
be.
can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it might be your microphone.
I think it is the microphone. I've had this problem before, but we only had some recommendations on some tree species changes and That's all we have on this one. Recommended to move forward.
Thank you. Engineering?
We didn't have anything on this one major. All the utilities are present as part of an overall drainage plan that was developed 10 years ago. So it's pretty straightforward review for us.
All right, thank you. Fire, you have anything for this one?
No, fire has nothing.
All right.
And
Thank you. All right, would the applicant wish to speak?
We have a Kip Williams online.
Hey, this is Kip Williams with Anderson Engineering. Just here to answer any questions that y'all might have.
All right, thank you. And anyone from the public online? All right, I think this one is another one that's straightforward. It's just getting everything, correct and the way it needs to be, and it'll forward on to the next meeting. And with that, any announcements?
No announcements at this time.
All right, well, I guess I can go and adjourn.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.